Hey folks, it's Rob Flux here from Property Developer Network coming to you for another Sunday session. And as you can see, we have a brand spanking new look and feel. As a matter of fact, we're using a bunch of new technologies that are allowing us to stream to multiple locations all at the same time. So fingers crossed, we should be going out to our Facebook page, our Facebook group, our LinkedIn page, our YouTube, and a number of other places. So if you are wanting to participate in the chat, because we're going out to so many places, the best thing that you can actually do is do that from our Facebook Live Facebook page. And if you click on the little link below, so chat.restream.io/Facebook or FB, then you'll be able to participate in our chat and we'll be able to feature your names on our stream as we go live. So I'm going to leave that up there for a couple of little moments for you guys to go and do that, and we'll see how many people actually come on board. Now, in the meantime, we're going to be talking today about downsizing for seniors, and I have a very special guest who's going to come and join us today. So Richard Andrews from Calyptus Living. So welcome aboard, Richard.
G'day, Rob. How you going?
Mate, fantastic. I have not pushed this many buttons for a very long time, mate, with this new technology. So forgive me if we fumble or stumble from time to time. But I guess now, Ben Franklin famously said, he had a quote that said there were only two things in life that were certain, and that was death and taxes. And the one thing that happens just before death is seniors living. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So tell me a little bit about yourself and I guess your history and background in seniors living, and why are you the right person to be talking to today?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to have me on to talk to your network. I guess you could call me a senior living expert. I've spent the last 10 years running large retirement villages for the likes of Lend-Lease, Aveo, organisations like that. And before that, actually wrote the book on retirement living. Great little book called Don't Buy Your Retirement Home Without Me, which is a must-use for anybody who's trying to negotiate a retirement village contract. Yep, there it is.
That book right there, is that what you're talking about?
That's the one. This new system's amazing, Rob. Just put that out there. So you can order that off all good bookshops, libraries, and Amazon. But yeah, and just sort of for the last couple of years, been sort of broadening out of retirement villages into more seniors rental. But otherwise, yeah, pretty much sit across the spectrum of seniors accommodation.
Very good. So I guess there's a little bit of a myth about what is called, trying to think, the continuum of care being, I guess, everything that seniors are actually involved in. But continuum care is kind of the last stages of seniors side of things. So tell us a little bit about the continuum of care, and then why there is so much opportunity that's sitting here before us before it even gets to that point.
Yeah, continuum of care pretty much relates to how we care for a resident as their needs increase, with the view that, you know, we'd like to keep them in the one place for as long as possible, because moving's stressful and we don't want to move them as much as we need to. So, for example, from a retirement village complex, it's about having a resident in a unit and being able to deliver care services to them for as long as possible that they're able to live independently in that unit. And then the continuum of care, as you move down the continuum, the next step from there is probably aged care. And what we're seeing in aged care is that the acuity of residents moving into aged care is becoming higher and higher, and that's directly as a result of the way government funding works. So that the average length of stay in aged care used to be around 3 years. It's now coming down, and I expect that to go to about 6 to 12 months in the future.
But the reality is that that's kind of at the point where people can't look after themselves, and that most of us, I guess, are wanting to be self-sufficient and independent and that sort of thing. So there's a whole bunch of living, I guess, once we get into that senior realm. And we've got some stats on that I might share to the world. So this is, I guess, talking a little bit about how and where people, I guess, as they start to age, where they prefer to live. So what can you tell us about these stats in particular, mate?
Yeah, well, let's zero into the stage between sort of retirement and downsizing and aged care. So aged care comes under a federal legislation. It's government funded, and you need an assessment to move into aged care. So let's just park that off and let's not talk about aged care anymore, because the opportunity lies in the steps before that. So what we have here, this graph is from a report by the Productivity Commission from December 2015, from an in-depth study called The Housing Choices of Senior Australians. And this pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. So as you can see, by and large, 3/4 of people want to age in place. And what we mean by that is they want to stay in their existing home. Now, that really frustrates the economists, because economists see these empty nesters sitting in these 4-bedroom homes and go, well, that's inefficient. They should move, they should downsize. Well, the fact is that most people want to stay exactly where they are. So of that population aged over 65, we see that 3/4 want to stay in place, about 8% stay in aged care. Only about 5% live in retirement villages. That I was just shocked when I first saw that, because I thought that you hit the age of 65 and you literally have to move into a retirement village. There's no choice. But what you can also see there is these lifestyle communities, or these trailer parks, or whatever you call them, who come under the caravan parks legislation in each state. It's shown there as I think about 2%, but they are just growing out of control, that sector of the market, and I expect that to probably take over retirement villages, at some stage over the next decade, because it is just quite simply a better product from the market perspective.
Yeah, but the reality is that when people are thinking about seniors living, most of us have been indoctrinated to really talk about these three areas here: that I guess residential aged care, retirement villages, and those mobile homes. Whereas in reality, what you're talking about is, well, what about all these other sectors? And I guess where are the opportunities that actually sit in and around that? And that's what we're going to be talking about largely today. So I guess when we start to think about where people actually want to live, what are some of the drivers that I guess dictate how and where they want to live, how they want to live, why they want to live? We were talking about this the other day offline, and you mentioned that there were pull drivers and push drivers. So, what are some of the push drivers? Firstly,
yeah, one of the biggest challenges in retirement villages and selling retirement village units is the fact that people typically need what we call a catalyzing event in order to push that decision to move, because moving gets harder as you get older, and a lot of people, they're in their comfort zone. They want to stay where they are, and sure, the house is falling down around their ears, but it literally takes a catalyzing event like a fall, an illness, a death of a spouse, or something like that really makes them go, whoa, I'm mortal. I need to be thinking about my next step. A lot of family pressure too, by the way. So in the industry, we've sort of broken these up into push factors, what's pushing them out of the home, and pull factors, and what's pulling them into these alternatives types of accommodation. So these are absolutely logical. So when you think about it, what's pushing them out of the home? Well, the home's no longer appropriate to their needs. So it could be a 2-story home. It has steps, and the older person, the hips are going, the knees are going. They can't climb the steps like they used to, particularly with the shopping. Maybe the home is old and needs a lot of maintenance that they can't afford or can't do. The yard may be, big quarter-acre block, which you have to mow every week in summer, and that becomes a drag as you get older if you're not into gardening. And maybe the location, perhaps the house that they bought 30 years ago, maybe the suburb dynamics have changed around them over that time as well. So they're all factors that they're kind of looking at going, this is not working for me. They might also be cash poor and asset rich. Imagine a single-aged pensioner living on the pension, but living in a large house, and all their assets, all their worldly wealth is tied up in that house. When you talk about pull factors, so this is where the marketing comes into it. So you see the retirement villages, they're advertising with these photos of happy people with perfect teeth. You're sitting around the swimming pool or playing bowls or tennis or something like that. So they're really focusing on those pull factors to go, hey, here's a home that's single level. It's built for easy maintenance.
So we're going to try and push it.
If it does need maintenance.
We just lost you there for a moment, Richard.
Sorry, where did I leave off there?
We were halfway through the pull factors And we just lost you momentarily, but let's see if we can just try and pick that up. So you mentioned that that's, I guess, all the marketing and the hype that everything happens around that as to why it's
Okay.
so attractive to live there.
Yep. No, you didn't miss too much. Yeah. So that's where they, you hit the advertising of the pools, the homes built for easy maintenance, the care when you need it. And of course, the big ones are the socialization, companionship, and also security. So they're the pull factors that people look at and go, gee, that is actually better than, where I'm living. So I'm going to go for that. And certainly industry surveys that have been done of people that move into retirement villages or lifestyle communities, people don't regret the decision by and large, and most of them regret that they just didn't do it earlier.
Yeah. So now, when we actually break those couple of elements apart, there's actually some hidden opportunities that sit in there. When we look at, I guess, the stats by themselves, it says one thing, and when we look at the pull drivers and the push drivers independently, they say something. But when we combine it all together, we can kind of get a picture of the fact that people still want to live independently by themselves and largely want to live where they are. It's just that the asset that they're typically living in isn't appropriate for their needs. And hence, I guess, where my community starts to get interested is to say, well, what is the opportunity and how can we start to, I guess, help these people out? And more importantly, how big is the opportunity actually sitting there? So when we start to think about how many people there are that are going through this change of life type scenario, here's some stats with regards to how many people are actually I guess, over the age of 65 and how this is massively growing over time. And that is because the baby boomers are getting much, much older. And as a society, we haven't been doing our duty and actually having 2 or more kids anymore. And so our fertility rates have not been up to scratch because we want lifestyle. We want to spend the money rather than giving it to the kids sort of thing. So what we can see here is some massive numbers of people that are going, I guess, through that change of cycle where they're, I guess, moving away from the workforce. They're becoming over 65. They want to, I guess, stay in place. But we can see, I guess, almost every 10 years, it's going up another 2% with the number of people in society, which is, a good million plus people, I guess, in this category at the moment. So, and growing.
Absolutely. I think most people would be well aware of the ageing population situation that we have, but what they may not be aware of, and I pulled this stat from one of the Michael Matusik reports, 90% of what we're building these days are 3+ bedroom homes, which are completely, as your group would know, completely inappropriate. And, things like single level duplexes and dual keys, ideal for this market, and most councils hate them, unbelievably.
Yeah, and hence there is a problem. So there's actually a bunch of hidden opportunities sitting in here. So if we break it down, I guess the baby boomers were the people that actually had the original, I guess, great Australian dream of having the big backyard, and so they were the ones that started the trend, right? But as they're starting to get older, it's getting harder to maintain that backyard, and the house might be 20, 30 plus years old, and might be asbestos or fibro or maybe double brick, and it's very drafty and starting to become hard to maintain. As you touched on, could be stairs, and so going up and down with bad knees becomes a challenge. But quite often they want to stay in the area. I guess they've got friends, they've got family, they've got socialization, all of those sorts of things. And so there's an opportunity for us to work with, I guess the people going through this change of life. And potentially give them an opportunity where we could give them a fit for purpose home in exchange for the backyard, or I guess maybe a little bit of change associated with that as well, which means that we can build a fit for purpose type product specifically for them.
Yeah, I think we all live in a street and we could, point out the house where the single older lady lives, and it's an old house on a big block, and we all salivate over it and going, oh, gee, there's some potential there. Well, maybe there's an opportunity to get in earlier because they're asset rich and cash poor, which is a very common situation, and trying to pay insurance, maintain gardens and houses and that sort of thing, or a car with a single age pension is very, very hard.
Very, very hard. And having knocked on a couple of little old ladies' doors in the past, the number of times where I've been sworn at and told, I was born in this house, I'm going to die in this house, does present some challenges. But it's about trying to have a conversation with them to say, well, is this something where we could actually help you out, where you can stay here? Because there's a lot of sentimental attachment to the home that the kids have grown up in.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Any insights into how to have that kind of conversation?
If I knew that, I would be rich. All I'd do is warn your group that there's no such thing as a short conversation with a senior.
No, I know that one. I've had many a cup of tea and a few scones as well over the kitchen table, and usually it's 2 or 3 hours that you're in there. So you want to be in there for the long haul.
Take food, absolutely. That's a great solution.
So I guess I've walked away with packets of scones and pumpkins and avocados and all sorts of things in having chats like that. So I guess a lot of people just don't go visit them. So the first time that somebody does, that you're a captive audience.
A lot of them are lonely, yeah.
So some of the challenges that I guess in trying to offer a solution to I guess this category. So obviously there's a sentimental attachment to the home. I guess we touched on that with regards to the fact that they've grown up there, their family's grown up there. Generally, they want to stay in the area. You touched on one where moving is actually difficult. They haven't got the financial resources or the physical resources necessarily to pick up all their gear and move. And when they've been sitting there for a long time, quite often they've got a lot of gear. What other challenges are there, mate?
Yeah, look, the downsizing one's a big one because it's not just simply about moving. It's about going through all the clutter and the debris of 40 years. And, the kids have left boxes of stuff and, things that are important to them, that have filled this, the old saying that if you've got space, you'll fill it. Well, that's happened in these big homes. And, to downsize to somewhere smaller means going through a lot of personal items. Which is, it's fraught. It's tiring. And a lot of these people haven't got the energy for that. As a sweetener, there are services that assist people with that downsizing and that packing. That can be a great sweetener to, throw in the mix if you need to make an offer on a property.
Yep. There's, I guess, some of the other challenges is there's just a lack of opportunities that are sitting in the area. So there's not a fit for purpose type product that for people to move into. And so if we're going to be looking at providing that fit for purpose product for them, we've got to think about housing them temporarily while we, I guess, knock down the existing house and put something new in place. So, when we look at the alternatives that might be in the area, we touched on them with the amount of product that's sitting there. There's only really aged care and mobile home parks in temporary type solutions or the like, typically, and even that may not necessarily be in every area. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We also have a really good, developed and sophisticated apartment market here in Australia that a lot of downsizers move into because they don't have yards and different things. And, Mirvac and Stockland will tell you that 50% of their sales of apartments go to downsizers. It's a very big part of their market. So people are selling out of their, $1 million homes and moving into these beautiful apartments in the city or these lifestyle locations, on the fringes and enjoying a better quality of life.
And there's also, I guess, the opportunity that you have identified through your business, through the co-living side of things. Tell us a little bit about that and why that's, I guess, an alternative option.
Yeah, so I literally stumbled across this. I was running retirement villages for a large not-for-profit, and we had a lot of villages in regional Queensland where the markets were really bad and we just, struggled to sell units. And one of our villages had a significant number of vacancies, and we thought, gee, we're not making sales anytime soon. Why don't we see if we can rent some of these units to some seniors and, see if there's demand for that and get a bit of cash flow coming in while the units sit vacant. So we put an ad in the paper for $180 and bang, we were just overwhelmed with demand. I thought, well, where did that come from? I haven't seen that before. And we tried it in a few other locations, and literally everywhere we tried it. And I'm talking, boondock regional towns as well as, city fringes. Everywhere we tried it, we were just overwhelmed with demand. And in some cases, some of our villages, had maybe 5 or 10 rental units. We had waiting lists 60 deep. And I was just gobsmacked. I thought, I've not seen this. I've not heard about this. We're not talking about it at conferences. Why is no one doing anything about it? And that's when I stumbled across that report from the Productivity Commission, and it showed that graph that showed, 14% of seniors over the age of 65 rent. It was 3 times the size of the retirement village market that I was operating in. And I thought, that's amazing. What an opportunity. Why is no one doing anything about it? So worked on a few different models and options, and came up with a model that we call co-living, seniors co-living, which is where we act as like a flatmate matching service and a property manager. And we put 2 to 3 seniors in a normal sort of 1A residential home, and, the shared spaces are furnished, and we can actually generate a higher yield for the investor on that respect. But for the tenant, the value propositions are enormous, because they get to move into a new or near new home. They get their own private bedroom, their own private bathroom. The shared spaces, the kitchen and living areas are furnished beautifully. We throw the utilities into the rent, plus Wi-Fi, plus emergency call. So they can literally move in, 1 weekly payment, and that's it. And they're very reasonable payments, somewhere between $250 and $290 a week. So that value proposition is amazing. So we're seeing significant demand from the market, and pleasingly also significant demand from investors for this style of product. So I guess what I wanted to put to your group is that, if you're doing a subdivision and you're looking to keep or build something and keep it, a Calyptus co-living property might be a great option for them if they want to meet this significant social need, as well as make a bit more money on the rent.
And a lot of our guys are familiar with a rent per room style opportunity. How is this different from that?
Yeah, rent per room model is a rooming house model, which typically requires a different form of construction and requires the property manager to be a residential services provider. We purposely fly under the radar for that, legally, of course, where we sign tenants onto the 1 lease per household, which is why we only do small households of 2 or 3 residents. But the beauty of this market is the fact that they move in, they stay for the long term. That productivity report showed that the average tenure of seniors in rental is 10 years, which is phenomenal. So we can safely make that assumption that they're going to move in and they're going to stay for the long term. Unlike sort of rooming house accommodation, where it's typically younger people and they do tend to turn over a lot quicker.
Yeah. And what is the typical demographic? Obviously elderly, but are you seeing, is it more male? Is it more female? Is it mixed? What's the mix that you tend to see?
Yeah, good question. I don't think we've got enough data yet to give you a solid answer on that, but we haven't ring fenced it by age, which we can't do legally anyway. But we're seeing the model was designed with the single older lady in mind. So we are definitely seeing single older ladies, way more than men. Probably 85% of the inquiry is from the ladies. Not to say we don't do men, and we certainly don't mix genders within our households either. I'd say our ideal person, that we have in mind as our market, who are we selling to, is a 65-year-old single retired female. And that's certainly what we're seeing in terms of the tenant is not far removed from that.
Yeah, and I can't quote to the stats on this off the top of my head. You might be able to do that yourself, but my understanding is that that category is the single highest homeless stat that we've actually got in Australia. So I guess elderly females in particular.
Yeah, single older ladies are the fastest growing demographic of homelessness. And between the 2 census dates of 06 and 11, that demographic grew by something like 55%, which is just gobsmacking that as a nation, we think that's acceptable. And, every week we're seeing articles on, ladies living on the streets, ladies living in their houses, living in their cars. And, the backgrounds of the ladies we've been able to house, they're couch surfing, living with family, or they're already in share situations which are just not working out. And they're highly distressed. Not having a home is a very stressing, point to be in your life, particularly if you're at that age and, where costs are an issue. So, we just are so thrilled that we're able to deliver a great result for a segment of the population that's in just such massive need.
Yeah, and so if we're looking to, build some of this product, what are some of the features that we would look to put into a dwelling of this type? Noting that some people want to live by themselves and some want to live as co-living, what would be the primary features that we'd be wanting to put in?
Yeah, they're really simple. I mean, these are not NDIS properties that are purpose-built for disabled people. So our requirements are very, very narrow. We prefer vinyl planking to tiles, slightly wider doorways, so 820 doorways. I'd say if you looked at the livable housing guidelines for the silver standard of livable housing, that ticks all our boxes. And you can find those on the Livable Housing Australia, or just Google it, Livable Housing Australia, and there's a downloadable PDF of what those standards are and how you can meet them.
Okay, so it's called the Silver Standards Livable Housing.
So there's a silver, gold, and I think there might be a platinum. I'm not sure, but there's various levels of housing there. I think you'll find that most of the apartments that are built these days by the better operators like Mirvac are all silver standard, and all that implies is that you're able to age in place. So no steps, single level, all that sort of thing.
So there's a few features that we might as well try to rattle off. So you touched on a couple of them. So ground floor wherever humanly possible. That, I guess, avoids a whole bunch of steps. If not, make sure that there is actually a lift in place if it's in an apartment complex. If you happen to be building 2 stories, which is not necessarily the right product, make sure there's at least a capability for putting a lift in retrospectively, that it's been catered for and designed for up front. You touched on wider hallways and doorways. That's for allowing for, over time,
walking frames,
walking sticks, walking frames, and then wheelchairs as appropriate. Some of the other things would be, taking the opportunity while constructing the dwelling to reinforce behind the walls in the toilets, in the showers, etc. So you've got grab handles that can be retrospectively added, and flexible floor plans which allow for, people's changing needs and situations as they grow over time. Because as they move into these homes, they're hoping that this is the last time that they move. So they might be there 20, 30 plus years. Yeah. So aging in place is quite an important factor.
Yeah, a couple of other ones I'd probably add there is in the kitchen, no cupboards, just do drawers, pull out drawers. And the other one was also in the bathrooms is right up front, make your towel rail a grab rail as well. Double it up. It might even save you doing it later, but certainly as they fall in the bathroom, they'll grab whatever they can. And if that towel rail is not secured, it's coming out.
Okay, that's a good tip. I hadn't thought of that one. Some of the other things, and this is less important, in their younger years, but as they start to, progress towards potentially needing Zimmer frames and wheelchairs and that sort of thing, the ability to get in and out of showers easily. So being able to have, frameless showers and where possible, and where if you're going to have the ability to walk into the shower, make sure that they can't actually splash the water straight onto the toilet roll holder. That's very inconvenient.
Or the floor.
Or the floor. Any other tips that you'd wanted to add into that?
I would recommend that you do have a posture towards glazing global warming. Make sure your house is built insulated. We like to have air conditioning in our homes as well, because we do get heat wave conditions, and elderly people are very susceptible to that. So it's a criteria for our homes that they have to be air conditioned. Mind you, that's southeast Queensland. If we're doing it in Tassie, I probably wouldn't bother. So definitely air conditioning, fans. In the kitchen also, just making sure that the appliances are accessible. So, not putting microwaves down at knee height in, alcoves, making sure your oven stack is at sort of, chest height. And that's pretty much it. That doesn't require a lot of, purpose building.
Okay. So now, where you've mentioned, I guess, the co-living type situations, such as you guys, I guess, provide from a management perspective, what are some of the, I guess, tips and tricks for, I guess, how to make, the right kind of tenants, I guess, coexist together? What are the factors that you look for to make sure that they're a good fit?
Well, without giving away all my IP here, Rob, that's to be honest, a lot of it is gut feel. So I personally, interview and meet all the prospective tenants. We get them to fill out a resident matching questionnaire, which is a bit like a dating questionnaire. What do you like? What do you not like? Where you're born? Do you like dinner? What do you like for cleaning and all that sort of thing? And we do an initial once over, and where possible, we try and get the tenants to meet up first, or at least have a chat on the phone, just to make sure there's no red flags there. But I guess, to be honest, Rob, these ladies are coming from, areas where they don't have a lot of choice. So while we provide a framework for the sharing to succeed, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of other options out there. So they are going to make it work, because there's literally nowhere else for them to go, which sounds nasty, but I mean, they will make it work. They will make it work.
Which is sad, but I mean, I guess that's the situation that they've got. So I guess it's good that they are flexible, and that you provide the framework for them to work within in order to do that. So any other I guess tidbits and tips or tricks that you think that our crew might want to know, mate?
No, I guess this is the non-sexy side of it, the older people. And I'll quote here Dr. Martine Rosenblatt. Look her up. She's amazing. But she said, find those corridors of disinterest and run down them as fast as you can. And I very much feel that this ignored part of both the rental market of seniors, but also those, 3/4 of people who want to age in place. I think there's massive opportunities there, and I don't see anyone really playing in those spaces. And I think if your group took a bit of time to do a bit of research into those, they would be well rewarded.
Very good. Okay, so for anyone who wants to reach you, have some contact details here that I'm going to share with everyone. So Richard Andrews at calyptus.com, Richard at calyptus.com.au, and your Tellingbone number. So anyone wanting to reach out to Richard, I'm sure that he would love to take your call and see how you guys can work together.
Would be great. Thanks, Rob.
No worries. Now, at this point, we would normally try to get some questions from the audience. Because we've gone out with this new technology, I can see that a couple of our live feeds haven't worked and our numbers are a little low. So haven't had anyone actually ask us any questions yet. So I'm going to spend about 2 seconds trying to trawl Facebook land and see if I can find the questions in there, because they haven't come through to our feed. So if you want to give me 2 seconds while I do that. Now, in the meantime, folks, just wanted to let you know that there is an opportunity to win our 12-month education and mentoring package. It's called Property Development Formula. In order to do so, what we're looking for is for you guys to actually provide some feedback via the QR code and or this link below that tells us all about your favorite Sunday session. So if you are able to do that, that is going to give us some really good insights into how we can best provide services for you moving forward. And we are going to then do the draw for that and a whole bunch of other prizes at our 9th birthday event next weekend. So I'm not sure if I even showed that on screen, did I? I don't think I did. Let me try that again. So that's what I meant to do. So this is the QR code and the link for anyone. So propdev.info/favorite Sunday session, or just the QR code. And if you provide your feedback in there, you will actually go into the draw. So with that said, mate, it looks like I can't find any questions coming through, which is unusual because we usually get plenty of feedback. So my humble apologies that this new technology hasn't gone as smoothly as it could. But either way, we do have your contact details. So for anyone who does want to contact you again, here's Richard's details. So richard@calyptus.com.au. So Richard, thank you very much for your time, mate. It's been greatly appreciated. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
No worries. And I guess looking forward to catching up again. For anyone wanting to join us on our next Sunday session, we're going to be doing something super exciting where we're actually going to be going to Bunnings and looking at some real secret sauce in Bunnings that they don't let everybody know. So stay tuned to that one, folks. If you want to know all about how you can benefit from our bulk purchasing arrangements with Bunnings, then I guess stay tuned for next week. Until then, folks, it's bye for me and bye from Richard. See you guys.